Let's face it, if you're a man, then you are probably dealing with problems and challenges with women. Now, I've got some good news and some bad news for you. Your success with women literally boils down to one thing. The bad news is, if you don't have it, nothing else will work. All of the money, good looks, and all of the best pickup and game skills out there will fail without you mastering this one thing. And that one thing is frame. The answers to ending your pain and suffering and to start living an amazing life with women is just one click away. Click the link and let's get started. Are you tired of your face being weak and beta and everyone always wanting to punch it? Well, there's not much I can do about that, but maybe Chad's face scrub can help. It has been crafted for men with all natural ingredients and without the nasty testosterone disrupting chemicals that will eventually turn you into a little man girl. So, whether you need to take a punch or steal someone's girlfriend, or just stay fresh as you go through the rigors of daily life as a man, Chad's is your brand. Order from my link in the video description to help support the channel. What's up, everybody? How's everyone doing? Running a little behind, of course, but we're here. A lot of you guys like my Chad's face scrub ad. I think I got to put the link, though, in the description, so check back later for that. It's really good stuff. I used it this morning. Keeps my face less punchable, when I'm, less beta. All right. Thought we'd just do a little pre-Rule Zero show today. We're going to be on at 11:30 over at Ryan Stone's channel. If you're on my social media, you should be on my social media, particularly be on my Twitter. That's probably the best one. Instagram's cool, I guess, but Twitter, I sometimes post things that are funny there. I'm a little less serious. And hey, man, Elon Musk took it over, so it's going to be a little bit more of a free speech platform. Hopefully, I have confidence it will be, actually. So yeah, we can say things and not get kicked off potentially for it not lining up with somebody else's views. It's not a bad thing, is it? And so anyways, I wanted to just do a little pre-show to talk a bit about the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation, but not so much to get into their business because, what's that saying? Something about, stupid people talk about other people. I don't remember what the saying is. Maybe you guys can throw it in the chat. But, we talk about ideas and we talk about other things. It just generally don't talk about people's business, right? And although their business is all over the internet and you can go see what that business is, unless there's some sort of thing or idea or whatever where it's going to help you guys, I'm not just talking about celebrity crap to get the clicks, so it doesn't really work for me anyways. I'm about shadow banned on YouTube. Your guys' support is what helps, by the way, so make sure you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, make sure that you share stuff with people because YouTube doesn't necessarily put my stuff out. But it's stuff that'll save your life. Now, lately, I've done a lot of posts and some different things. Well, from other live streams, I've had Brittany, my assistant, cut up things from me talking about borderline personality disorder, me talking about toxic relationship dynamics and getting out of it. And a lot of guys find themselves, in those situations. And so I thought we would just talk about some of that today because the big question that people have is like, how does a guy like Johnny Depp get into a situation like what he's in? How does he get so far down that rabbit hole, right? I mean, because here's a man who is well accomplished. He really could do whatever he wants, in terms of whatever. It's life is how he designs it, right? Life essentially is how you design it, but some people, have We all have maybe struggles with resources and limitations and things that prevents us from truly getting what we want. And then we have to spend time, effort, energy putting the work into that. And it's not to say that Johnny Depp hasn't put time or work into what he has. He certainly has. But he's at that point in life where he's, in terms of his personal relationships, he really could have whatever he wants. So the fact that he doesn't have what he wants is really a testament to how much work he needs to do on himself, right? And it means that there's things that are screwed up with him, and that's okay, right? Because human beings are not perfect, and so it's not me slamming on him as a person. And actually, most of this isn't going to be me slamming on someone as a person. I kind of want to slam on Amber Heard a lot because she's psychopathic, and I'll get into what that means, but and why I'm saying that. However, where I don't believe Johnny Depp, at least in that situation, is I don't know him personally. I can't do a diagnosis on anybody in any sense, let alone even be able to fully determine with objectivity unless they're in front of me. But yeah, is exhibiting the characteristics of what an abused man exhibits in a BPD or NPD abuse relationship. All right. And there's a lot of times, by the way, where he's not a good person at different times in these recordings and different things. But that's because the nature of that relationship pulls you down into this rabbit hole where you're behaving like a person that isn't really who you are. You lose your identity. Okay. So him behaving toxic during the times that he behaved toxically, well, that was him being down this abuse rabbit hole. Now, I want to say something because I see this here in the chat. She forced him. No, I don't know what you mean by that, but she did not force him to be in that kind of relationship. And none of you are forced either if you've been in a toxic relationship. All right. You have choices and you have agency. You understand? And that's what you need to recognize. If you don't recognize your own agency and your own part in this, then you're not going to be able to help yourself. It's not a, and I say this to women, I say this to men, in any kind of abuse situation, you need to be able to recognize your part and your participation in it. I don't care how severe the abuse is, because if you don't, if you don't recognize that, then you will have no power over it. You're doomed to repeat it and you're doomed to stay in it. So it's not a means of, blaming the victim. And I do this even with women in self-defense scenarios who are, let's say, women who are, sexually assaulted or assaulted, right? For example, because I've partnered with friends of mine and I've done them myself, but it's been a long time where I've taught self-defense and I've taught use of force and stuff to people. And I've had these victims come through these classes, and truly they were victims. It wasn't their fault. They were overpowered, right? But they still need to recognize on their own accord what parts they had in that. Were they putting themselves in unsafe situations? Were they allowing things to go down a pathway too far where it shouldn't have? It's not to feel bad about it or blame yourself for being victimized, but it's to recognize what power you had and what you didn't have in the circumstance so that you know how to execute that power in the future. It gives you power over these scenarios. So you guys who have been through these abuse relationships, it's easy to talk about the girl and how terrible she was. And it's cathartic. And in some ways, you do need to do that and recognize that stuff. I'm not saying not to do it. However, you need to recognize what part you took in it. What part you can say, all right, I had this control here. I made these decisions, and that put me in this place that I shouldn't have been in. If you don't do that, you won't get power over it. All right. And so we're going to talk about the celebrity trap too. And I've had some, I won't say massively well-known celebrity, although who knows, man, because they're new in their career. Maybe they'll be that at some day. I hope they are. Talk to me about different things, and I welcome that conversation, and it's always in private. And so that's another thing. I know that people will come across this, people who are in the acting industry, singing industry, people who are higher profile. I have a number of people who actually have booked consults with me who are content creators, blue check mark celebrities, and people that are in different industries where they have quite a visible profile. And they've contacted me for everything from just general dating advice, believe it or not, to deeper issues and trauma. And I'll never disclose those names unless they want me to, or unless they're overtly doing that themselves, right? Because privacy is of utmost importance. And unfortunately, that's the first point I'm going to make, is a lot of these high profile people, they don't have the privacy, you see. So normal people can make a mistake. It's not all over the news. Normal people can, you know, struggle with something and talk to a friend, family, therapist, whoever they want to talk to, and it's not at risk of being exposed everywhere. And people who are higher profile struggle with having that ability to have that privacy. And this can be a huge hindrance to their self-development, because now they're under scrutiny at all times. Imagine if you always had eyes on you every time you did anything. Every time you go to take a shit, somebody's watching, right? Like you always have that. And I don't have celebrity status like that, but I do have some notoriety. It's different. Like I've had people come up to me recognizing me from like YouTube, or recognizing me like, oh, dude, like, and then they call me like, oh, it's Apex, like my name's Apex now, right? And I'm being looked like, I'm being watched, man. So like, and it's okay. I mean, I'm fine with it, but I know I have a taste of what that kind of thing it can be like, where you're just being watched. And if you're not strong with your identity and with yourself, and I don't mean to say like, oh, Johnny Depp's weak, it's not that conversation. It's just that it's something you actually have to look at and work on a daily basis. You will lose yourself into the eyes that are watching you. All right. Now, some of you guys will never have this issue, but there's a lesson here to be had when you function around your friends, when you function around your social circles, and even if you're not a celebrity status, or perhaps maybe your family. Some of you have experienced this yourselves, right? You go home for family dinner and you're this person who's out there doing stuff and accomplishing things, and then mom treats you like you're 17 years old making a bunch of mistakes, or dad treats you like you're that incompetent 12-year-old who doesn't know the difference between two different types of screwdrivers when he asks for one. And you find yourself falling into the role of old you in front of these people, right? They see you as, they see you as a certain way, and you start to behave or react to that, or maybe you're fighting against that. Now you're in some very unnecessary fight with a sibling or a cousin or your mom or your dad, trying to prove yourself to somebody else. Happens all the time. What's fun for me, I like doing, is I like going, probably will do one. I think I'm planning another one. Nobody, like very few people show up to it, but I do those little reunions with high school. It's kind of fun to see people, what they're up to. Fun for me because I have a strong identity, but I do notice that people tend to fall into old roles from their high school when they get around a bunch of other high school people. Like you'll see that, or they're reacting to that. In other words, okay, they're not the same old person, but they're trying to prove now that they're different than they were when people knew them in high school, and they're showing up to that 10 or 20 year reunion with something to prove, right? And instead of just enjoying themselves. And so like in to some degree, people just do that. And these are you falling into roles. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that structure too. We're going to deep dive a little bit. But if you're somebody who's high profile, my door is open. Just, it's not the money, it's not the notoriety. I'm just very good at what I do. And nobody has to know. All right. If you're in that position where nobody can know, book my time, right? And we'll figure it out, because that's a common thing that I have. Let me, so got Steven back. I gave Steven a hard time when you were on with Rich last time, because you know what to do. You know what to do. I was about to call you a name or something, but my fellow military guy here, I get to mess with him a lot. He knows what's up. How do you set boundaries through statements if your girlfriend and you disagree? And when you disagree and don't move from your position initially, then she gets emotionally upset, and then you want to make her feel better. You should be super chat me, by the way, dickhead. Give you free advice over here. It's probably some, I don't know what rank you are. Probably like some, you're 29, so you've been in for 10 years. You can throw in a $5 super chat. I'm going to solve your problems right now. Anyways, feel better so you can end up trying to make her feel better, because you don't want your girl to hurt, and you ultimately end up getting the problem solved. I then get blamed for controlling because I repeated my statements, my boundaries, but it's controlling, which makes me think it's a manipulative tactic to get her way. All right, I kind of half-assed read that, so if you're listening and not watching the screen, I'm sorry. We'll get into, yeah, I will absolutely answer that for you. By the way, when I ask for super chats and stuff, it's not because I want your money. It actually helps the algorithms a lot. Even if it's just like I don't know if they're watching amounts, but I know that they watch super chats that come in. So even if it's like a really small amount, it helps, the algorithms say, oh, he's getting super chats, and then it boosts out, to get more eyes on the video. So that's really the reason, by the way. I don't need $50, $100 super chats from you guys. It's nice. I appreciate it when that's happened. It's happened before, but if you don't have a bunch of money and you throw in, $2, all it does is help the algorithms, and it's definitely appreciated. But because it gave you such a hard time yesterday, Steven, which you needed to hear anyway, I will get into this question you have, because it is related too, because we're talking about toxic relationship dynamics. Okay, so your question, what you're trying to do, so what Steven's trying to do is he's trying to set a boundary, okay? Now, you've alluded that you're in a toxic relationship. All right, thank you so much, sir, for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Hopefully more people hear about this video now. But yeah, you alluded that you're in a toxic dynamic. Possibly this girl is a BPD chick. So got a number of things for you guys, and I'll get into this specific thing. But yeah, you know what? You cannot outgame someone's personality disorder or mental disorder. All right. So that's the first thing you need to understand. If somebody has a personality disorder, okay, borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, even antisocial, there's a few things, and this applies to the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp scenario, right? Too, because she appears to have possibly BPD, but I don't know, without an interview, I don't know. But she is displaying the extreme behavior of someone with a personality disorder with psychopathic traits. And so I'll get into that. So you want to look at personality disorders like a spectrum. Now, understand some clinical psychologists will agree with everything I'm saying, and some will disagree. Also understand, as I did have a little exchange with a professor of psychology and a couple clinical psychologists. I don't use a lot of the terms that they're going to use in the classroom, because people have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. All right, I'm on YouTube, so I'm using generalized terms that are descriptive and that will make sense. Plus, I use terms that are charged maybe to elicit a reaction or paint a picture for people who are lay people and trying to understand, or I use terms that are specifically not terms that are normally used for certain things so that people won't get a bias or a stereotype based on the term and can think outside of the box and they have to look at what I'm saying. So just so people know where I'm at, some of the academics are kind of like, well, this guy's kind of a lay person, or he doesn't really seem to, he knows, oh, well, these are really good concepts, but he's not using the terms that we would use, let's say, in a clinical, sense. Well, no, we're not, because this isn't a clinical thing. It's YouTube, right? And I'm trying to elicit, so lessons in persuasions. I'm trying to elicit reactions with my word choice. And so sometimes if you use words that are given certain meaning, for example, let's say the words strong, independent woman, okay, to one target group, I'm going to elicit a certain reaction with that statement. Like, you guys, it's not going to be very good. But to some people out there, it's going to be more of a positive reaction, and there's different ideas of what that means. And so that's a term there I would play with. You know what I mean? I could use the term to elicit and paint a picture or one reaction, or I could not use the term and use other terminology to describe this strong, independent woman, okay, that would elicit and paint a different picture, and that would pull somebody outside of their box of thinking. And so that's a persuasion tool that guys in my mastermind group, saw a little commercial for it there in the beginning. They're learning those kinds of things, because how you present yourself and your language that you use and word choice makes a big difference. So anyways, on that, now let's get into personality disorders a bit. Now, you guys have seen my previous videos on it, but the model I look at is that it's on a spectrum. All right. So kind of think like autism in a way. All right. In other words, you have some that are autists that are very functioning and very mild, and they just have some social and communication difficulties, but you know what, they can do well on their own after a while. They just have to learn their way of functioning in the world. And then you have some autistics, people that are high into the disability category. They're going to need help for the rest of their lives. Sometimes they can't. The neurological disorder is really what autism is so compromising to them that they just can't function, and they're just going to need help, right? And it's a spectrum. It's just because of the diagnosis, it doesn't mean it doesn't state necessarily where on that spectrum that person is. You want to look at borderline personality disorder and NPD in the same way. Some are high on that, or high on the spectrum, meaning that they're not high functioning, but high on the spectrum of BPD, NPD, or antisocial. And those are the ones who usually show what's called narcissistic and psychopathic traits, and even Machiavellian traits. And so these people who are more into psychopathy that fit these personality disorders are probably not going to be able to be helped, right? And they're going to be very extreme in their behavior. And then you have some people who are lower on the spectrum, who maybe were just through a lot of trauma and abuse and some genetic predispositions. They fit the disorder, but they could potentially get help. It's going to take work. It's going to take time, but they could be okay and start to learn how to have meaningful relationships after some DBT therapy is usually good for BPD people, and after some work, right? And so it varies. Now, what happens is, you guys who are with chicks like this, or have been with that, you're drug addicts, all right? You're functioning drug addicts. I have to treat you like a drug addict, all right, or an alcoholic. You're going to make every excuse in the book to try to continue to be with somebody like this. You're going to try to justify all the reasons why you need to try it out with this person. You're going to every guy I talk to that's in it, she might be BPD, but she's definitely, I think she can get help. I just want to see her get help. That's what you'll hear, all right, from those guys. And she may not be that. She may be completely she may be psychopathic. She may be way far on the spectrum where no amount of help is going to help her, but that guy will not see it, because he wants to continue to be with her, and he wants to get that dopamine and oxytocin, you know, injection from her, from his neurochemical system. He associates her as the source of those things and a source of his value, and he just wants to believe, and he wants to believe that, you know, she can get help and all this, and most of them cannot. Most of them cannot and will not get help. This is just the statistics. All right. And so I don't know about the individual chick you're dealing with, but most won't do it. And you have to accept that. Okay. Because you cannot out game it. Your, you know, she makes you feel during the love bombing phase that your magical penis is the solution to all of her problems. And if you would just try harder, bang her better, make her feel better, right? Be a better listener. If you would just alter your behavior enough, she could overcome her trauma. I'll often talk about their trauma, right? Nope, you can't. There's nothing you can do. Once you're in the devaluation phase, there's no amount of things that you will do that will cause her to behave differently. She'll just continue to feel the way she feels and blame you for it and make you perceive, if you're listening to her, because you're completely in her frame. You have no frame with these women, by the way. Once you're in devaluation, you've lost it. Okay. And she's just going to make you think and continue to think this stuff. Thanks, Christian. I appreciate that. For the algorithms, thank you, bro. Yes, you do. Yes, you absolutely do, bro. You do. Because if you could get out of this on your own, you'd be out of it already, right? So, you know, you got the website, apexmindset.net, and just get on there and book some stuff with me. We'll figure it out. But I'm going to keep talking about it and get to your question too. Yeah, Johnny Depp thing is an awakening to the world, if the world can be, you know, a little bit not so short-term memory all the time, but it's an awakening to how men can be abused too. Right. And so that's in some ways it's good that this is high profile. In a way, Mr. Depp's taking one for the team here. But anyways, back to it. So when guys say that, oh, I just want to see her get help, what they're really saying is, I want her to get help so that she can be cured of this problem and be the same person that I once knew when we were madly in love and soulmates and twin flames and all the other magical thinking that goes with that kind of stuff, and horoscopes aligned and life paths and all the bullshit that she likes to talk about and that you got sucked into. You want to go back to that time when things were, you know, good because she was love bombing, and have that relationship again. That's what guys mean. They don't think they may mean that, but that is what they mean. All right. Unless, of course, they've completely moved on from the relationship. Then genuinely, when they say I want her to get help, it's just, you know, possibly, you know, just, I mean, it's legitimately wanting another person to get help. And that's okay. Obviously, that's a healthy place to be. But guys who are not moved on from it, and they're saying that, what they really mean is they want her to be the old person, and they want to have the old love bombing relationship back. You'll never have that back. If she is even capable, if she is part of the probably what is amounts to the less than 10% that can get any sort of help from therapy methods and whatever to overcome stuff, if she is capable of having a healthy relationship, she won't be the same person who love bombed you. You won't have that relationship again. She may not even like you, all right? Because what made her that person was the disorder. And your dysfunctions as a man is what caused you to get involved in that. You had deficiencies as a man, and that's how you ended up in it. And I don't mean to say that in an accusatory, harsh manner or anything, but you have to recognize that there were problems that you had in order to allow this relationship dynamic to develop and go as far as it did. If you don't recognize that, you can never fix those things, and you'll always be trapped in these scenarios. So your need and want for her to get help, and you want to stick by her side while she does that, all that crap, it's all bullshit, because the old relationship is dead. and you need to have a funeral for it and flush it down the toilet like your dead goldfish, say a prayer, sing a song, cry it out, and move on. I do have I know it's a little more complicated than that. I do have a breakup recovery thing I do with people, both in the mastermind group as well as a package if I'm not full, because that gets full a lot. And it's a whole process of how to break that neurochemical attachment when we could say addiction in that person. You have to break it and move on. If on the off chance, which by the way doesn't happen, but if on the off chance, it can work out with that person in the future, it's got to be a different relationship, and you have to be a different person from a different attachment point. It has to be a fresh start. And so that's how that works. Okay. Now, let me say one last caveat on this. Here's the thing. Just like Johnny Depp, all right, any of you guys who've gone through this, what you have available to you is better, not just healthier and more stable, but better, more intense, better feelings too. Because this is what messes with guys. They think they can't have the level of intensity in a relationship that's healthy that they have to be with a toxic girl to have that. And that's absolutely not true. When you're with somebody who's healthy and who's a good match, you can go deeper into a relationship with them. They can come deeper into your frame because they're capable of that. And that leads to more intense sexual experiences, more intense and fun and euphoric life experiences. That means you can repeat honeymoon phases throughout your relationships. That's what guys are looking for, and they come to the mastermind group to learn how to find that chick or have that in their current relationships, or recover from a breakup to then have it later. But that's what guys are going for, because who wants to just settle for uncomplicated, drama-free, but not very exciting, right? That's just not, most guys don't want that. And most guys trapped in the addiction are like, that's the sense of loss. Oh, I'll never feel this again, and all that. And so they're between a rock and a hard place. Do I dip my toe in the NPD, BPD waters with another girl just to have her? Do I keep my exes? I'll play, because the sex and this. No. All right. What you do is you learn how to hold frame and have seduction. So you seduce a very normal, healthy girl into having a deeper relationship with you, where she opens up and she gets to be crazy with you in a healthy way. All right. And I have not only my own experience, but plenty of guys who I've worked with have overcome these types of relationships to have better, stronger, like they will never go back to the old thing. And so that's an important point. That's what you have to look forward to. So guys like Steven who sound like they're still stuck in it, you need to look at that. All right. Now, what he's talking about here is setting boundaries through statements. Look, man, I'm going to give you guys a formula real quick. And BPD women don't like to follow this formula because they're manipulative. All right. And you'll know if your chick is capable of being a healthy communicator when you communicate with her in both a healthy way yourself, as well as in a way that resonates with how her brain works. Okay. So the female brain, all right, the female brain, let me talk about it like a dude who, I don't know, talk about aliens here or some shit. But a woman's brain, though, is not wired the same as yours. And so there's two things that have to happen here. One is you have to know how to communicate to how a woman's brain is wired. And then that distills down to individual characteristics that the woman you're dealing with has that you need to be able to match communication with. So you can say the same words in a different context, different way, when she's in different sets of emotions, and it'll mean different things to her. Okay. It'll resonate in different ways. And this is everybody, not just women. Okay. So first thing, people say, communication is key to success. But then they don't tell you how to communicate. They give you dumb ideas like 5 love languages or laws of attraction or positive thinking and all this bullshit, and it's not compromise and, all this stuff that's not really how to communicate with a woman in the way that her brain's wired to pick up on things. So that's the first thing, is you got to be able to communicate to women in general, distilling it down to the chick you're dealing with. This is how you can communicate boundaries. Okay. So how do you do this? Well, you do it through actions. Okay. And not reward, and consequence and reward. All right. Women do recognize subtle communication and actions a lot better than a logical discussion. Whereas guys tend to want to have logical discussions all the time. So we have that. But now let's get into actually, that doesn't mean having covert contracts either, and never having conversations. If you never have conversations with your chick and say, statements of facts or getting to understandings on a verbal level of what's okay and what's not okay, then it's really just a covert contract, meaning that you're doing something or not doing something in hopes that she, covertly knows what you mean. And then if she doesn't, then you get all mad and upset about it. And so that's never a good way of doing things. So I recommend that people in their relationships, they have moments where they have what I call quiet time, where they can have just general conversations and things are just open, and she can say what's on her mind and you can say what's on your mind, right? And now during these times, or when you're trying to express a boundary, or let's have a discussion, what you want to do is you want to follow this acronym. The acronym is called LUCA. So instead of DEARing, which stands for defending yourself, explaining, excusing, and rationalizing, you're going to do LUCA. All right. LUCA is listening, understanding. And when I say understanding, not just the words that come out of her mouth, but empathetically understanding why. Why are the words coming out of her mouth? What's her motive? What's her angle? Why does she perceive the world like that? Okay. What you want to get into her shoes and understand from her perspective why she's saying the words that she's saying that you're listening to. So listen and understand are the first two things. It's the most important, because guys want to just explain stuff, right? And explaining stuff, it only goes so far. Okay. And so, and not only that, is women, they understand things by hearing how things come out of their mouth and how it feels, and then they can deduce the problem from there. All right. And so you want to listen, understand, and then see as clarity. So you want to seek clarity. So either that's statements of, okay, so what I hear you saying is blank, and you repeat back so that she understands that you understand. And if it's off, then she needs to re-clarify. Okay. And also, if she says something that is false or wrong, or there's a paradigm that needs to be shifted, you can question that. You're not necessarily saying, hey, you're wrong. You want to get her to see what she's saying. So then you say, so what you're saying is this, but I'm confused because then A, B, C, right? Or that doesn't seem to match this. So explain that to me. Or what do you mean by that, right? And as she says it and feels it, if it's wrong, she may get frustrated with herself or whatever, but she's going to start to understand. Whereas if you start explaining it to her and that doesn't feel right, she's going to rebel based on those feelings. And then from there, A is take action. So you're not explaining anything unless she's asking for clarification or an explanation. What you're doing is you're having an action plan. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Or if it's a boundary, all right, so from now on, we're not doing this sort of thing to each other. All right, it's not good for our relationship. That's your action plan. You say it in a statement. And now what you're looking for from her is an agreement. And this is where guys make a mistake and they fall into the girl's frame and they end up falling to a game of manipulation. Okay. So what you do is you get into, it's not agreement, although agreement is nice to have. What you want is compliance. You have an action plan, right? And you want her to be able to comply with that. She may even walk away from the conversation mad and saying, I don't agree with this. Or I don't think this is right, or something like that, right? But then she complies anyway. Now she's in your frame. And now if the thing that you're saying is, not good for a good relationship, be prepared. The consequences will be thrown back at you. It will be your fault, and rightfully so. But, she complies with it. And then what happens is through that compliance, then she begins to understand. And then through that understanding, she understands it at your level. So maybe it's like, well, he doesn't, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal, but he does. So, I'm doing A because he wants that. And I guess I understand why. And she'll defend your position, even if she doesn't agree after a point, because she's getting that understanding. And then from understanding, that turns into agreement. And maybe months later, after complying and understanding, softens up that hard stance of I disagree and he's wrong into I agree, I see what he's saying. You see, especially for very stubborn women who, are wanting to be right all the time. This is actually a pretty good format. It doesn't matter who's right. It matters about the solution. Right. And so that's your track you're looking for: compliance, understanding, and then agreement. Okay. But all you need is compliance. Women might not agree with you. The girl you're with might not agree with you. But if she's complying for the sake of the relationship, now you're at least at a good starting point. You don't need to keep explaining stuff to try to get this agreement. It's not your responsibility to make sure she understands. Okay, that's her responsibility. And that's where you guys screw it up, because you make it your responsibility. And that's what I saw here in Steven's comments was, he's making it his responsibility to make her feel better. That's a toxic dynamic, my friend. And that's what her feelings are her responsibility. Okay. But that's what BPD girls like to do, though. They like to try to say it's your responsibility. Their feelings are your fault. No, they're not. Okay. And so that's your formula. That's what you do. All right. And a girl who's healthy will be able to fall in line with this because she's being heard and understood. And the biggest reason why women will argue with you is because they don't feel like you hear them, they don't feel like you understand them, and they don't feel like their needs are going to get met. Okay. And they may feel like they're right and you're wrong or something, but that's another issue. That you set the frame in your relationship that it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. What matters is the results, right? And so you set that by not focusing on who is right, who is wrong, and trying to make her be wrong and make you be right because you're so alpha. You're in the wrong framework. It's simply, we're going to comply and do what's good for the relationship. Now, when you follow this formula, a BPD, NPD chick won't be able to follow it. She's going to fail. Okay. She's going to continue to try to manipulate and argue and create problems for you. And that's when you know that that's a situation that you probably need to get out of. Now, we're actually up against time. It's 11:30, coming on 11:30. I got to jump over to Ryan's channel. So you're going to jump over to Ryan Stone's channel. We're going to talk more about this. But I'm going to make a final comment for this video, and especially for those who are trapped into this type of relationship dynamic. And that final comment is this. You can look at this situation and unfortunately see how toxic these things are. And what I want you to note is that Johnny Depp he's a high value person who can have anything that he wants, really. But yet he finds himself in this position. So if he can do that and end up here, that means you can end up there too. And it's going to be based on you, not the other person. Okay. And so when you're in a relationship with a BPD, NPD, if you find yourself going down that path, that is because there's something within you. All right. That needs to be fixed. And unfortunately, for my high status sort of celebrity types that do listen to me and that feel like they can't turn to anyone for help, that is the problem. Someone like Johnny Depp, he gets everyone telling him how great he is constantly. And then what's very common is you get an imposter syndrome. You feel like I'm not this great. And these people think I'm so great. And you end up feeling bad about yourself. So it's a strange dynamic where everyone's telling you how great you are and you actually feel bad about yourself. And you actually don't recognize your accomplishments and the things that you have. And then you allow yourself to get into relationships that reflect how you feel about yourself. I feel a lot of empathy and most sympathy towards a guy like Johnny Depp because I know that, he doesn't feel good about himself or he wouldn't be in this situation. And he wouldn't be doing a lot of the things that he does that are toxic and bad for himself. And the unfortunate thing is, if you want, and this is the same problem, by the way, that pretty girls often have too. If they want to get all of the social proof that they're amazing and great and that they never make any mistakes, it's all out there. There's nobody that's truly challenging these people. No one's truly, I mean, there might be, those people are out there, but you can choose to not listen to those people, set your distance, and then only put yourself in an echo chamber of people telling you how amazing, great, and awesome you are. And then if you have addictions, that's even more dangerous because now you're not listening to the voices that are telling you, hey man, you got some addictions here. You got some problems. We need to do something different. You're going to push those voices away and you're going to focus and hone in on only the ones that tell you that how great you are. And then they'll give you the source of your addiction. And if you have an addictive personality and you feel bad about yourself through imposter syndrome, look at Elon Musk, look at Anthony Bourdain, look at Johnny Depp, look at Will Smith, okay? Kurt Cobain got mentioned here. I can keep going down the list. You're going to continue to feel like an imposter while surrounding yourself with yes men. And then you're going to have relationships that reflect how you feel about yourself. And then that feeling, unfortunately, is pretty horrible. So I don't get much in terms of algorithms. I would hope that this message and what I just said, the last few minutes of this video, I hope that gets out. That message gets out to people who need to hear it. Not just you listening here, but people who are high profile individuals, or maybe some of my friends who are kind of high profile or soon to be high profile individuals. I hope you hear that message because and contact me, give me a call inside, do whatever. Because the thing that you have to do, whether you're high profile or not, is protect your identity. When you look into the abyss looks back at you. I know I'm messing that quote up, but that's a Nietzsche thing, right? And it's very true. When you are reflecting yourself into the world, they reflect on you. And you have to protect yourself from that reflection, both the good and the hugely positive biases, as well as the negative biases. Okay. And that's, you have to protect yourself actually from both, because either one can steer you in the wrong place. So you have to be able to know who you are, and you have to be able to constantly come back to that as your center. And then from that center of who you are, you interact with the world. That way you have the frame versus everybody else having the frame around you. And then you responding to that, right? And that's how guys like Johnny Depp get into these scenarios. They don't have the frame in their own lives because they're influenced so much by everybody else. And they lose that sense of self. And when you don't have a sense of self, what more than to get into a relationship with a toxic person who's going to make your identity get wrapped up into them, right? Very dangerous. All right, go over and visit. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Go and hang out with me over at Rhinestone's channel, and we'll do some Rule Zero stuff. Take care, guys.